and then honor our mothers as a national issue. Because God ties the role of fatherhood and motherhood to social survival, to community development. He said, and if you do this, he says, you will live long in the land, respecting and honoring your father. Paul the Apostle, over 4,000 years later, repeated these statements in his book to a country, to a little province called Ephesus. Remember, Paul was building the church as well. And Paul said to the folks in Ephesians 6, verse 2, he says, remember what the word of the Lord says, honor your father and your mother, which is the first commandment with promise. In other words, all the other commands God gave, he never gave a promise with it. But the first one he gave that he has a promise with it is father and mother. Now notice, he says that if you honor your father and mother, you will what? You will live long. Does that mean then that whenever there is death in a community, crime, murder, homicide, drug abuse, self-imposed death, that's because there is dishonor for the father and the mother. Could it be then that our communities are destructive or self-destructive because we disobeyed the first law that guarantees long life, which is dishonoring your father and your mother? Could it be then that God is actually connecting crime to dishonoring fathers and mothers? Or fathers and mothers not being worthy of honor? Could it be that the solution to our criminal issues is restoring honor to father and mother? Somehow I believe there's a connection. Life is cut short because the father and mother are not in position to be honored. Ask the criminals who are locked up today in prison about their relationship with their fathers. 92% of the prisoners that were questioned about their fathers had a negative response. Some of them are so angry at their fathers that that's how they tried to get back at him, by getting involved in anti-social behavior. Could it be then that fathers can actually save the country? Jesus came to save the world, and he ended his work on earth with these words, now I go back to your God, my God, and to your Father and my Father. Did he come really to restore us back to Father? Adam fell apart when he declared independence from his father. He no longer wanted to be connected to heaven. He disobeyed his father. And the whole family fell apart. The destruction of a society is connected to the absence of fathers. If you read the Old Testament, the last verse of the Old Testament, before Christ is introduced in the New Testament, ends like this. I will come and return the hearts of the fathers back to the children, and the children back to their fathers, lest the land become cursed. Honor your father. Here's a verse you never saw before. God says, do not curse your father. Why? Because honoring your father protects you. He who honors his father shall have long life. Cursing your father is self-destructive. Let me prove that, especially to our young people here today who may be feeling their age. It took me a long time to feel my age. Because every time I felt my age, I felt my mother's hand. She hit my face, and then I felt my father's belt. He hit my hip. I had north and south to consider. Matthew 15, verse 3 says, "For God says, honor your father and your mother, and anyone who curses his father or mother must be put to death." These are words of Jesus. He was quoting what he told Moses. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think God wants to kill children. But I think the point he's making is, it is better for you to be dead than to dishonor your father and your mother. Could honoring a father be so important that God says it's worthy of capital punishment if you don't? Honoring your father protects you from death. Here's another statement. Proverbs 20, verse 20. Write it down. It says, if a man curses his father or his mother, his lamp will be snuffed out in pitch darkness. Let me just say it another way. I don't think that God's talking here about physical killing, even though that may have been the intent. He's also talking about you will lose what you was intended to have in life if you disobey your parents. You will negate all the hope God has for you. You will destroy your future if you disconnect honoring your father and mother. Maybe that's why out of the 11 children God has given my parents, all of us came out well. Everybody came out well. No one never got in problems, had to go to prison, got in trouble with the law, had to go to court. Imagine 2 parents with 11 children. And the only thing they made us do was honor them. And when we didn't, they made sure we were encouraged to do so. And could it be that that's why we're still alive today? Big family, loving each other still. When we get together, we were together a few days ago with my father on Father's Day, all of us in the house together, all the kids together, and we were talking about family again. Do you remember? We kept remembering how Mom and Dad used to correct us and punish us. We were thanking Daddy at 85 years old for what he did. He kept us out of jail just by obedience to him. My mother used to say, if I smell bear on you, it's there. Correct? She said, if I smell it on you, I brought you into this world, and I will take you out, she said. There'll be late abortion. She said, if I smell cigarettes anywhere in this house, find somewhere to live, she said. Now, this sounds harsh, but today my lungs are pure. Glory, hallelujah. My liver has no toxic alcohol. Why? We obeyed them. The death of Michael Jackson. Yes, I'm going to go there. A man who was 50 years old still wanted to be a child again. Because his father didn't allow him to be a child. One of the saddest things I heard on the media shows this week was a commentator by one of his best friends. They said he was an old man in a child's body. That's it. That explains everything. Mr. Gordy, the founder of Motown, said when he first met this group, he says, This little boy, at 6 years old, was singing like an old man. And then they asked Michael, how was it growing up in Motown? His answer shocked me. He said, my friends were Stevie Wonder and Smokey Robinson and Aretha Franklin and Diana Ross. Wait a minute, you're 5 and they 35. He never even had friends his age. He never had a playground. He said on his way to the studio, he would look through the fence and see the kids playing, and he would begin to cry because he had to go to work at age 5. And he watched them play and he cried. No wonder why he built a playground in his backyard. $19 million just to play with children. The effects of a father. God bless his soul. Learn the lessons. The priority of fathers. Write this down. The most important component in human family development is fatherhood. God made it clear, even to the point of saying, if you don't honor your father, you can be put to death. You will die. So go the fathers, so go the nation. So go the fathers, so go the family. So go the fathers, so go the community. And as I mentioned, Time Magazine's favorite quote, Dad is destiny. The secular world has concluded that the conditions of a male determines the destiny of a country. We spend a lot of money on the women in every country. But not much is spent on men except to build jails for them. We build programs for women, but prisons for men. We develop women and we give men punishment. And so our nation is lopsided. The foundations are out of course. And what I think is the most amazing thing is that Father is the designation God gave himself. He calls himself Father. He never calls himself Mother. And that doesn't demean the role of motherhood. But it does emphasize the importance of the spirit of fatherhood. I want to talk about that today. What is father? For a quick review of those who are not here, the word father is from a Hebrew word, Abba, and it actually means source, nourisher, sustainer, protector. It means progenitor. This word Abba also means founder or foundation. It means the author of something, the one who made it. The word Abba means it is the source, the root of something. Everybody say Abba. So father is not a name. Father is a title of a function. When you are the source of something, you are called the Abba. When you sustain what you source, you are called the Abba. When you protect what came out of you, you are called the Abba. When you cover it, when you become the progenitor of it, then you are called the Father. This is why the woman is never called Father, because women came out of man. When God made the human race, today we got 6.7 billion people on earth, and God only made one. He never went back to the soil. And the only one he made was a male. And God went inside the male and pulled out a female, which means the female didn't come from the soil. She came out of the male. That's why the male is naturally the father of the female. Now what does the word father mean? Write it down. Say it loud. Source, nourisher, sustainer, protector, progenitor, founder, and author and maker. That's what a man's supposed to be to a woman. Can you imagine that? Ladies, I'm giving you a little secret here. If a man wants to marry you, keep this list in your pocket. When he thinks that you tell him, Can you do that? Say the list again. Can you source me, nourish me, sustain me, provide for me, protect me, regenerate me, be the foundation for my life, and can you author me? Can you make me better? That's a tough assignment. Our modern society have almost come to the point where the woman is becoming the man. She got to become the nourisher and the sustainer and the protector and the founder and the progenitor. And she was not built for that. This is why young people like Sarah Fawcett would have so much stress in the body after 2 or 3 marriages, trying to deal with the pressure of life. Your body is not built to carry that stress, ladies. Your physical makeup is so battered by the pressure of trying to be a foundation that there are growths in your breasts and growths in your loins and fibroids going crazy, and the people can't figure out what's wrong with you. It's because you're not built for this. Doctors have said it, and I heard a doctor say last night regarding Mr. Michael Jackson, he said it was stress. One man asked him, where did his pain come from? In his bones and his back and his muscle. The gentleman said it was stress. Can stress make you sick? Stress is worry, carrying things you're not supposed to carry. That includes unforgiveness. God made the male to be the carrier. And when the carrier is gone, you got a house without foundation. That's why God says, honor the Father. Put him in his place. Make sure he stays where he belongs. Why? He's on the bottom of the human race. Most men believe they are the head of the home, and that's wrong. You are not the head of the home. You are the foundation of the home. Roots are at the bottom of the tree. The foundation carries the whole house. And so when the foundation is defective, you condemn the whole house. I was telling the men at TDJ's conference this week, I said, listen, don't be hurried to take women out of their parents' homes. You don't know what you're doing. This ain't about sex and about breasts. This is about carrying a whole life for the rest of your life. Can you carry this life? This isn't about finding a domestic servant to cook you food, and a housemaid to clean your shirts and iron. You're supposed to carry the whole thing as the male. Leave her in that house if you are not ready to carry her for the rest of your life. This is tough. You're the foundation. Take a note here. The Father is the foundation. The Father is the root. Abba. The Father is the source. The Father, the word, means genetic pool, progenitor. That means the Father provides the kind of genetics that the offspring will have. Which means that the offspring is no better off than the source. So you produce after your kind. And if you don't like what you see, it's because of you. If you are the progenitor. Very important. I want to talk in this session about, therefore, the model father. What's the model true father? I want you to write this down because we're going to take a look at the greatest father that ever lived and what his son says about him. His son reveals what a father should think about a father, about a son, and a son about a father. What I'm going to show you now is what a son said about his father so that you can see what a father is supposed to be to a son. Everybody still with me? Let me try it again. What I'm going to show you now is the perfect father, the ultimate father. And I'm going to show you what his son says about him so you can know what a father is supposed to be to a son. because the Son is also the perfect Son. Also, I want to show you that this Son tells us about his Father, but he also tells us that all the fathers should be like his Father. Let's read it. Matthew 5, verse 47, 48. Jesus said, "Be perfect, therefore, just like your Father is perfect." In other words, my Father is the model. Follow him. Do what he does. Say what he says. Live like he lives. And then you'll be a perfect father. Let's read the first thing he says about his Father. This is deep stuff for me. Matthew 11:27. Jesus speaking. He says, "All things have been committed to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father. And no one knows the Father except the Son. And those to whom the Son chooses to reveal him." Now this is loaded. Look at the first line. He says, "All things have been given to me by my Father." Let me ask you, you got how many sons? 4 sons. This young man got 4 sons. And what this is telling us here is that you should accumulate something to give to your sons. I can stop right there and go home. If you are a father, you have to prove it by having something to pass on to your children. All that the Father has committed to me. Let me put it another way. Let's reverse it. Can you trust your kids with everything you built up? Have you trained them so well that you know they won't destroy it? Can you pass on the 30-year business you built to your children and trust them not to destroy it? That's what he said. The Father has committed everything to me. The Father trusts me so well. He knows he trained me so well. He can leave the inheritance to me. Of course, I know what's going on in your mind, right? A good man leaves an inheritance to his children. Can you be such a good father that what you're building, you're not just building a business, you're also building the children to keep it? How many people build a big business and lose their kids? And then when they die, the kids shut it off. You know, there was a hotel downtown in the Bahamas on Bay Street called the Corona Hotel. I don't know much about it, but it's one of the best restaurants I've ever been at for years, right? Nice hotel. And then all of a sudden, someone just, I don't know, someone went crazy. And the hotel just stood there for years empty. And I think it's still empty after 20 years. I'm thinking, where are the children? Are you building a business, a ministry, a career that when you die it's gone and the kids got nothing? A good father can give everything he has to his children. Some men win their career and lose their family. When I was a kid, I made a decision. Well, I'm going to have something to give my kids. When I think of some of the men in our country who have done very well, you know, most of them are from the other side of the track. Solomon and Sons. Pritchett and Sons. Milo Butler and Sons. So have you got you yet and Sons? Will your sons have something to inherit? I know we got single mothers here and you're wondering, Pastor Myles, what about me? I can get to you later. But you see, we got David the man. The men got to get their head on right. You have to have something to give over to your children. That's the perfect father. And then he says, no one knows the son except the father. How well do you know your son? Or your daughter? How well do you know your children, father? Now, notice, it says no one knows the son like the father. This is important. You can't know your kids if you don't spend time with them. The average father doesn't have conversations with his daughter. And even worse with the son. The average father never talks to his son except, go to your pants, boy. Touch your hip. That's not conversation. You can't know me if I keep commanding me. Do you know your daughter? Do you know what she's thinking? What she's feeling? Do you know about her menstruation? Does she have cramps for what? Do you know her? Do you know your child? That's what Jesus said, a good father. He knows his son. You know, I spend time with my daughter and son. My son and I work together now, very much closer. But we're always very close. And even more and more, it's getting better and better. My daughter and I spent all week together and talked to her about deep things, your dreams. What are you feeling? How are you feeling? What's going on in your life? I want to know, what about your friends? What about your desires? Do you talk to your children on that level? No one knows me like my daddy, he said. Me like my father. And then he says, and no one knows my father except me. Boy, it's a tough one, eh? How well do your kids know you? Do you give them a chance to really know you? Your fears? Your dreams? Your doubts? Your testimony? Your kids know how you got saved and what you think about God, and do they know about your prayer life or how you study the Word? Do your kids know you too? A good father reveals himself to his children. He's so quiet. See, he said if he wouldn't be perfect, be like my daddy. There are young people in this room, and I know I sit up on stage today, and some of them know nothing about their daddy. Never talks to them. And when he calls, it's this surface communication. How you doing? How's school? That's good. You got money? Okay. You got lunch? Good. Okay, see you later. That's not conversation, that's maintenance. They don't need maintenance. They need meditation. They need deep conversation. They need someone to give their heart to. Do your kids know you? The last part is heavy. He says, I can reveal my Father to people. I wonder what your kids tell other people about you. That's the question. I wonder what they say. He said kids reveal their fathers to other people. I don't ever see my daddy. Yeah, he comes in, but he comes in, he leaves in the morning, comes in the night while I'm sleeping. I never saw him. For 20 years of my life, my daddy been working. I never saw him. Right after lunch, on Sunday, he goes straight to the ball game. Doesn't take me. He's revealing you to people. What does your daughter say to the people about you as a father? My daddy, he got his own life. I don't know where he is. Someone tell me they saw him with a woman. I don't know. In other words, what do they say about you? Jesus said a good father is able to allow his kids to talk to others about them. You know what's amazing? Even some of the wives don't know their fathers. On top of their husbands. Husbands talk maintenance, talk to their wives. Pay the bills. Light bill paid. Mortgage paid. Good. And then he's gone. It's even worse. If the wife doesn't know the husband, there's no hope for the child. My job as pastor is not to teach you the ordeal. My job is to teach you the ideal. Whatever condition you experience now, I am not supposed to reduce God's standard to your condition. Please forgive me if you're feeling funny this morning. I have to teach the ideal. We got to get men to come up to God's standard, not bring God's standard down to man's problem. And if you are a man here today, I hope that this message will cause you to act quickly and say, honey, you're 14 years old, but let's go for lunch. Why? God spoke to me today. I need to talk to you. I need you to talk to me. Your son is 28 years old. He still don't know you. Call him and say, son, forgive me. I have not been a perfect father, but I'm going to make up because you got another 80 years to live. Let me at least try to get 5 more in and do it right so you can do good with your son. Make up. The daughters in here are starving for their father. You know, here's something I thought was interesting. And when I read this, I was concerned about the impact of it. Jesus got these things from his father. Write them down. Every woman, write them down. Every male, write them twice. I did research in the New Testament on the life of Jesus and his father. And here's what I got from these verses. I researched it for almost 7 years to find out what made God a successful father and what made Jesus Christ a successful son. And here's what I found. Number 1, he got his identity from his father. Number 2, he got his work from his father. He said, I and my father are one. Remember that? In other words, who do you identify with? A friend or your daddy? Some young men in this room are being brought up by a buddy. They identify more with their friends than they do with their own father. And they become like their buddies instead of like their father. Can you say, I am like my father? I and my father are one? Let me ask another question. Does your son want to be like you? Does your daughter feel good to say, that's my daddy? Or are they ashamed of you? Do they identify you as their father? Or do they call you that old man? My old man. The second one, his work. Christ says, I came to do the work that my Father does. He says, for my Father is working, and so I work. I work the work of my Father. Where does your children get their work ethic from? And also, can you also inspire them to work? Do they see you as a worker? Can you provide work for them to do? I mentioned to you last time that one of the greatest mysteries I believe we're missing is having our children work in the family business. While you're working on a job, I want you to do something. I want you to work on a business while you're working so you can build a business for your sons. Because whenever your kids are working for someone else, they are making that other person wealthy. Yes, go back to work. Don't get me wrong. Don't quit your job tomorrow. But go back to work. But when the Bible says, work in the morning, plant your seeds. But in the evening, let not your hands be idle, because you don't know which one will prosper you. That means you go to the job in the morning, but make sure you do something in the evening that your kids could inherit. I love Dr. Barry thinking about you, your daughter this morning. Isn't that beautiful? His daughter want to be just like her daddy. She said, I want to be an orthodontist. He's an orthodontist. He has his own business. And now his kids are not wondering about the future. Can I get employed? Will there be a job? He's provided work. She's going to do the work that her father works. She's going to work her father's work. But we're not being taught to think this way. Eh? We've been taught, get a job, settle down, pay a mortgage till you die. The reason why I'm teaching this is not to bring you guilt, but to change the future for your life and your children. My job is to make you just like God. Build something that your kids could inherit. He got his work from his father. The third thing he got from his father was his purpose. He says, I came to complete the work my Father sent me to do. Do you give your children purpose in life? Son, I'm sending you off to school because I got a plan. I want you to go and complete this degree because, we got to do this thing the next 40 years and you're going to take it over. That's giving your son purpose. I came to do the work my Father sent me to do. God the Father provided the work for the Son, and that became his purpose. Fourthly, he got his heritage from his Father. He says, I came from the Father. The Father sent me, and I'm going back to my Father. He had a sense of heritage. Does your children feel that they can be proud of the family name? There are people who don't want you to know who their father is. They're ashamed of the name. I've known some people who actually use their maiden name. Or they change their name because the father messed up. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I feel this today. My job is to teach you the truth, not to appease what you are experiencing. If we're going to heal our country, we need to bring men back to the standard of God. Are you giving your children a heritage as a father? Number 5, he got his power from his father. This is important. I remember when I first got my first loan from the bank. I came out of college in 1980. I had no money. Started working for the government. Got my first paycheck. Walked into the bank, and I said, I got to buy a piece of property, because I'm thinking of my own family now. I got to build my own heritage. And here I am, 1980, young guy, walks into the bank, and the girl at the bank says, I read your application, but you don't qualify. She said, how long you been working? I said, can't you see? That's a dumb question. I just got from college. By the way, you bankers need to check those folks who interview people. Dumbest question I ever seen. And then she says, well, we can't give you a loan because you have no history with that bank. I said, lady, I just got home from college. What do you expect? Dumbest question I ever heard. Anyone had a question with your hand? Anyone had a question with your hand? Am I the only one? You might have a question asked. Don't get your hand. Yeah, she's around there. Strangest question. So anyhow, I got so frustrated with the young lady. I said, let me talk to your manager. She said, you need to talk to him. I'm the loan officer. Excuse me. Can I please see the manager? She said, well, I don't know why you need to see him. He's going to say the same thing. And she picked up the phone and she called him. And he said, come in. I went in. Walked to his office. He stood up. And he smiled. He said, you're Matthias, sir. Watch this. My father's name is Matthias. Anyone who knows him well calls him Tias. He said, he was Tias' boy. I said, yes, sir. He said, have a seat. He said, what's your problem? I said, I need a loan to buy a piece of property. He said, so what's the problem? I said, the loan officer is assuming that I cannot afford this. Now, can I handle this? He said, anyway, he works for the government. He said, I know your daddy for the last 40 years, man. What's your problem? You get the loan, okay? I know your daddy. The power of a father's name. Do you give your kids power? Can they use your reputation to make it through life? Or do people say, your daddy? You want him to sign to you? No way. Do you embarrass your children because of your life? He got his power. I like what Jesus said. He says, I came because my Father sent me. And he says, and if you believe my Father, you believe me, he says. He tied his success to his Father's reputation. If you knew my Father, he says, you would know me. Is that what you're giving your son and daughter? My daughter said to me the other day, she said, Daddy, When I get married, I still can use my name, Munroe. I said, but no, you can't do that. She said, I don't care. She said, Munroe strong. Whenever I go all over America, when they say Munroe, they say, are you? She said, yes, I'm Myles Munroe daughter. They say, come right in. She said, I don't want to lose that. So my answer was, make sure the guy you marry got a name as strong as mine. He got his power from his father. Number 6, he got his authority. He said, I came to you in my Father's name. My Father sent me. And if you knew who my Father was, you would listen to my words, he said. Are you giving your children authority? Number 7, he got his legitimacy from his father. His father made him legal. He says, I am here because my Father sent me. And because my Father sent me, I know who I am. Number 8, he got his destiny from his Father. Because I came from my Father and I'm going back to my Father. His future was in his Father. You give your children a destiny where they can go into the family's name and say, this name is living forever. I'm going to keep this name proud and alive. You know, my father today didn't have property to give us, didn't have land to give us, didn't have a house to give us. We didn't get tangible things from our father. But the most important thing our father gave us was his name. I walk around the country and people say, I know your daddy. And guess what? The Bible says a good son becomes a blessing to his father. My father's been telling me lately some strange thing. My father says, you know, son, everywhere I go, they say, we use Myles Munroe, daddy. It's reversed now. They say, oh, yeah, I know your son. Can you live in such a way that your kids can use your name to make it through life? The heavy load. He got his family from his father. He said, my father loves me, and I love the Father, and I do the things that please him. He said, if you don't believe me, my Father believes me. You know what? When you go into the world as a son, most of the folks don't believe you. But you okay if your daddy believes. Your family got to back you up. The Father gives you the support when the whole world abandons you. My heart hurts for the single mothers because they don't have this long list. And they got to battle. They got to be father and mother to a daughter. That's why God would bring you into the church like this and say, look, let Pastor Myles adopt your child. Why? If she needs someone to tell her how to live, what to do, who to marry, bring the guy to me, let me check him out. Why? Because she needs a father to protect her. I'm telling you now, I have adopted all the young women in this room who have no father. You are now my kids. And if anybody beats you, let me see where they are. Show me where they live. I will kill them and tell God they died. We need protection. And it comes from our Father. And finally, number 10, he got his message from his Father. You know, this is important. Do your children repeat what you say? The people said, I only say the words my Father tells me to say. Where do you get your language from, sir? Some young men are cursing because they heard their father cursing. Some men talk about sex because they hear their father talking about sex. Some men talk about women because they hear their father talking about women. In other words, some men just do what their father do, but that's the message that comes from their father. Some men have sweethearts because their father has sweethearts. What is the message you're giving your son or your daughter? A good father provides the message for his children. Your kids repeat what you say. And you single mothers, be careful of the men that come into your children's life. Because they're looking for a father image. And if a man comes to shack it with you, you're in trouble twice. Because now that kid is confused. You ain't never been to the altar, so they ain't going to no altar. That's the message they got. You can sleep without going to the altar. What are you telling your kids just by your life? Jesus said, I only do what I see my Father do. My goodness, you hear that? I only do what I see my Father do. He had a mother named Mary. He never said he does what he sees his mother does. That means you single women. The man in your life is who your kids are watching. I was talking to a young man recently. He said, you know, every time I woke up, my mother had another man in the house, a different one. He said, hey, I hate women. He says, why I'm homosexual. He wasn't born that way. He was made that way by what he saw. He saw men abusing his mother. He became angry at his mother, who allowed it. I wonder what's the message you are giving to your children. Everything you do, they watch it. I'm going to say it again. They're not watching the woman. They're watching the man in the woman's life. Or maybe the men. They're watching. They're getting the cues from the male. When you commit adultery, you're not messing up your own family only. You're destroying the kids of the other person you are having adultery with. It's a social problem. Faithfulness is a national security issue. Okay, let me close this because the time's gone. Let me get a couple of verses. Let me pick up here. Can we do this next week? All right. Write down these verses, please. Matthew 12, verse 50. I want you to read it aloud because I want you to see that your father and your friends are related. It says these words, for whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my friend and my brother and my sister and my mother. This is very interesting. He says he chooses his company based on who likes his father. Wow. This is heavy stuff. The father is supposed to provide the standard for the children's friends. Some of your kids will not bring their friends to the house because the behavior and the activity of their friends would not be sanctioned by you. So they go out to their friends all the time. Something's wrong. If the father doesn't know who the kids' friends are, he's already in danger. He said, whoever does the will of my Father can be my friend. I call them my brother and my sister. Any young person in my family who comes to deal with my kids, if they don't believe what I believe, they don't associate with my kids. Period. And that's it. If they're not willing to live the kind of life I lived, I don't want them to be my kids. We tell our kids this all the time. If you cannot bring them in this house, you shouldn't go anywhere with them. We don't steal, we don't curse, we don't drink, we don't smoke, we don't dope, we don't do that stuff, we don't commit adultery. Now, what do your friends do? The father establishes the standard of relationship for the children, and that's fathering. Look at this next verse, Matthew 26. He said, do you think I cannot call on my Father? By the way, he was threatened, remember? He was threatened by Pilate. Pilate said, I could kill you. Jesus went straight to his daddy, didn't he? Do your kids feel so secure that you pack them up? And you can tell people, you wait till my daddy comes. Wow. What a feeling. He says, Pilate, don't you think I can call my Father and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? In other words, don't fool with me. My daddy backs me up. Can your children depend on you to back up their claims? children can go to a place, make a decision. Yes, I'll buy that. And the person says, how do you, my daddy paid for that. And then they go back to daddy. Daddy, I told them that you can pay for that. That's what Christ is talking about. Your kid's supposed to be able to make a decision, a wise decision, knowing that the decision is based on their quality of understanding of their daddy, that their daddy would pay for it. Can your children depend on you to cover them? You mean you signed the paper for college? You accepted the acceptance letter? Why you did that? You use my daddy? Yeah, but no, use my daddy. I know you can cover this. You can find some way to pay this tuition. Can your kids do that? So much confidence in you, and they know you'll find a way. Sometimes the kids can't find you. We need to get back to honoring fathers. But here's my message today. I want the fathers first to honor fatherhood. And that's the message today. I want the fathers to honor fathers again. Before the woman could even honor, before the kids could honor, let's get the men to first get back to honoring fatherhood. What is fatherhood? This is just the beginning. We'll pick it here next time. How many people blessed today? Let me see your hands. How many said ouch 5 times? Let me see your wave. Yeah, I know. I say ouch too. Yes, I know. And men, listen to me. You know, let me tell you, just hold your seat for a second, please. We'll leave in a minute. Listen to me. I am not any better than you. But I had to learn this. Not from my father. I had to learn it from my Heavenly Father. So don't feel bad if you're feeling it right now. God has sent me to be a father to you. The father you never had? Yeah. And He's telling me to father you so we can catch this generation before they fall. We have to do better. Have to do better. And there's hope. I want you, if there's one CD you buy, get this one. Get 5 copies and give it to all the men in your life. And say, look, I'll pay you to listen to this. Because if we just get 10% of the men to capture this kind of revelation, this country can be transformed. They'll go back to their fathers, go back to their children, go back to their homes, go back to their wives. The average man just doesn't know what to do. You can't blame him. He wasn't taught. And let it be easy on us because the average man has no training like this. He doesn't know. All he figures marriage is sex and food. I'm serious. That's it. It's sex and food. That's it. You know, feed me and I got some sex. I watch TV and drink beer. That's it. That's the guy's life. He never knows that he got to take care of the kids more than the woman takes care of the kids. The Bible never tells the woman to train the kids. It says, fathers, train your children. The Bible never says women should discipline children. It says fathers discipline your children. It's all the father's job, but we keep putting it on the woman. Forgive us. You cannot do what you do not know. And that's why God is helping us. I want all the men to stand, married and unmarried. Hey guys, some of us were lucky, huh? We made it. We lucked up. The good mother somehow did something and we survived. Thank God for good mothers. But you know, a mother can never substitute for a father. You still need that father to help you. I think we all can see that Michael Jackson at 50 years old still looking for a father. I heard the most amazing explanation yesterday about why Michael Jackson had cosmetic surgery. It was someone who was very close to him, and the person was also a psychologist. You know what they said? Listen to this. I couldn't believe what I heard. You'll probably hear it today again. He said, Larry asked the guy, he says, why do you think he had so many plastic surgeries? His answer, he says, well, from being a friend with him and talking with him in secret and private, I've come to the conclusion that every time he looked in the mirror, he saw his father. Haven't you heard that? We all heard that, right? Yeah. He said he didn't want to be like his father. And he said the older he grew, the more he looked like his father. And he didn't want to be. Can you imagine disfiguring your face so you don't look like it? "50 years old, still grappling. My father." How many 50-year-olds here today grappling? That's my daddy. My daddy never talked to me. My daddy never told me he loved me. My daddy never touched my shoulder, never hugged me. My daddy never spoke to me kindly. My daddy never said, "Son, you're a man today." My daddy never told me that I could make it. My daddy never sat down and said, "Son, let me tell you about sex, women." My daddy never told me that I could go to school and get an education, be somebody. My daddy never sat with me just to listen. My daddy never told me about his weaknesses when he was struggling with. My daddy never told me about God. My daddy never prayed with me. I wonder if you're still struggling at 50. Trying to be unlike him as much as possible. Let's pray. Father, we're not here to be guilty. We're not here to feel depressed. We're here to be changed. Thank you for conviction. Thank you for correction. Thank you for instruction in righteousness. For you said your word is good for these things. Transform these men, Lord. Change me along with them. Help us today to make a decision that we will be like our Father who is in heaven. We're going to model ourselves after the Heavenly Father. Lord, help us to obey the prayer of your Son, that we would be perfect just like our Father in heaven is perfect. Help us to create a new generation in our families, that it begins with us. Help us to become the standard bearer of your righteousness and your fatherhood in our family. Oh God, let our children be blessed by this message we heard today, because it changes us. We repent of our sins, our rebellion against you. We repent of our disobedience to your voice, to your word. As men, we repent. We say, have mercy on us. Forgive us of our trespasses. And Lord, we pray that you will keep us away from temptation. Deliver us from the evil one. We can stop doing the things that destroy our family, our children, our friends. For the kingdom belongs to you. And the power and the glory belongs to you. Thank you for giving us your power. Hallelujah. Your authority. You gave us your name. You said we can pray in your name. We can do things in your name. We can demand things in your name. Thank you, Father, for giving us a name. So we know that we have authority to make it through this week. We give you thanks. If there be any man here today who are not in your family, Lord, I pray that he would resubmit himself to fatherhood, the Father of heaven. Now just feel your head bowed. Please just feel the Lord say there's some who need to rededicate themselves to Him. Can you come out of your seat right now? Keep your heads bowed, everyone. Please just pray. Tell someone next to you, excuse me, let me get by. Will you come down front? Let's just rededicate ourselves as a man to Him. Young man, your father may not have been the perfect daddy, but he wants you to be the perfect daddy. You need His help. Maybe you failed in some areas with your kids. God is saying, prove to me you heard my voice. Just come and resubmit yourself to me. Commit yourself to me and I will help you with this. Will you come right now? Come right now. I'm going to wait for a few minutes. No place for pride this morning. We cannot be helped without God. Will you come right now? Don't leave this building until you leave His presence. Thank you, Lord Jesus. I'm going to wait a few minutes. Will you come? The Lord spoke to your heart today about rededication of yourself as a man to Him. Will you come right now? Just stand by the altar before we have a benediction. I want us to pray and rededicate our lives to Him. Every male in this place, the Lord spoke to you about recommitment, rededication, forgiveness. Maybe you can forgive your father this morning. Maybe your father hurt you. Come on this altar and say, Lord, I release him. I forgive him. He didn't know any better. Will you come also? Get that out of you. Get that hatred, that bitterness, that anger. Just release it. Let us make this the day that we change as men. Will you come right now? I know it takes men a while to come because many men just struggle with this, but I believe God sent this message right in the middle of the year. Just for you. Thank you, Jesus.
When we talk about leadership, we must remember that there is a difficulty in defining leadership. However, the best way to gain a definition of something is to go back as far as possible to the original concept. Definitions are in origins. Definitions become more contaminated the further away they are removed from the origin. You would remember, those of you who were alive in the 60s and still alive now, that in the 60s they used to call money bread in America. You know, when I was a kid, we used to eat bread. And then it became money. I remember when cool used to mean it was chilly, or the weather was a little bit cold. But now cool became another word. And it meant that you were in control or relaxed. And so words change in definitions the further away you remove them. Leadership has become that way. Leadership has become a problem because people have become confused about what leadership is. We call, for example, Hitler a leader. And when you really think about leadership, you begin to wonder, was he really a leader? And you might say yes, because he had people following him. So then you have a problem. Jim Jones, the tragic experience there in the nation of Guyana. We think of him as being a leader because people followed him. I mean, what is leadership? You begin to think about that. Leadership is, you know, if I was to analyze Hitler, my result of my analytical analysis would be Hitler was an expert manipulator. That's not the same as leadership. If I was to talk about someone like Mussolini, the great Italian dictator, Mussolini was not really a leader in my definition. He was a man who manipulated people through fear. Hitler did it through brainwashing. He sold a concept of a superior race that people, you know. It ain't me. It might be the other microphone. You can turn that down. He sold the concept of superior race, and people want to feel superior, so they were manipulated. So when we talk about leadership, we must go back to the original. And the only way we can find it is to keep going back until we reach to God. Everything begins with God. And the document that God has given us as His beginning is the book called the Bible. So leadership should be defined as far back as possible in the Bible. When we get to Genesis, we find God's introduction of leadership philosophy. And when you analyze that, you have to come to a conclusion that every human being was created to be a leader. Because He gave every human being the responsibility for domination. That command, that mandate, that responsibility was given to man, which is a plural word. That's why we teach here that everybody possessed leadership ability. Now, whether they exercise that and even understand it, and in most cases, we abuse it, and we abuse other people with it, then that's the reason why we have confusion about leadership. Now, the characteristics that a true leader exemplifies and exhibits can be identified. Because whenever there is a true leader on the scene, these characteristics are present. We can't, in many ways, define leadership because it's so personal. Everybody's so different. But when it is manifested, there are certain characteristics that are consistent. And that's why we can give a list. So you can use this list actually to measure yourself against. That's why you can teach, in a sense, leadership principles. You cannot teach leadership, but you can teach leadership principles. The person who is receiving that information will have to have a personal encounter with those principles and have a revelation of leadership for themselves. Is that clear? So, I'm going to give you the remaining section of the list that I've been dealing with yesterday. And we ended on a leader envisions a better future. And I'm glad we ended there because that's what we're going to be dealing with today. How a leader develops mission and vision. The next one, characteristic of a leader, is leaders don't blame others. Say that with me. Leaders don't blame others. A true leader accepts responsibility for not only his behavior, but the consequences of any decision that is made by him or anyone else under his care. And that's a tough thing about leadership. This is a very difficult one for leaders. Those who are not true leaders find this very difficult. Human beings are what I call security conscious. We like to secure ourselves. When things go wrong, we protect our position. We protect our pride. We protect our credibility or whatever else we got left. But a true leader is willing to accept responsibility and not transfer it to other people. Now, when you understand this principle, you can become a good counselor. Are you thinking? Whenever someone comes to you with a problem, and if they are in leadership positions, or if they are in a position where they are in a lower leadership position, you can solve any problem by checking who is responsible. And that's the person who should really be taking the responsibility. All right? Some of you work for companies where there's a supervisor or there's a CEO or someone that work over you. They're responsible for you. And maybe you're a secretary, or you are a downline manager, or maybe you are a senior pastor under a bishop, or maybe you are a assistant pastor under a pastor. I mean, whatever the relationships are, somebody has to be responsible, and that's the person we call the leader of the leaders. A true leader, no matter what happens, doesn't blame the secretary, doesn't blame the assistant pastor, doesn't blame the downline manager. A true leader takes responsibility. And I believe this is one of the areas where we fall down a lot. Jesus was very conscious of his responsibility for the disciples. And when they came to arrest Jesus, remember, he was very protective. Now the guys tried to protect him. He says, no, this is not between you and these people. This is between me and them. And then he says, who'd you come out to see? They said, we come to see Jesus. He says, I'm he. He's protecting them, taking responsibility for their safety. Next, a leader have a buck stops here attitude. A leader has a buck stop here attitude, end quote. A leader does not keep passing the ball. We got so many people with titles, but they don't make no decisions. They don't want to take responsibility. I learned something about true leadership. True leaders always are in trouble. Do you know why? Because they make decisions. People who don't make any decisions are full of criticism. If you want something done, give it to a true leader. He's not afraid to make the decisions. And I think this is a sign of the level of your leadership. Leaders not only let the buck stop with them, but they also initiate bucks. They actually begin things. They say, hey, let's do this. They say, we've never done this before. Well, let's try it. But you might fail. But we don't know. We might succeed also. Leaders got this concept of let's make a decision. Let's take charge. Let me do it. I mean, if no one else is going to do it, let's get it done. We mentioned yesterday that leaders are not afraid of failure because to a leader, failure is simply a classroom where he learns of one new way not to do it. Next, a leader wants to win. That's an attitude of a leader, characteristic. A leader wants to win. She wants to win. A leader has an attitude which says, I am going to succeed. So they keep trying. They want to win. And you can tell a person who's a true leader, they never have a pessimistic attitude. In spite of all the negative environments around them, they always got this attitude that we have to succeed in this. So they keep trying. Next, leaders are curious and flexible. A true leader has a curiosity spirit and flexibility. Curious and flexible. That's the next one. If you are a leader, you will be inquisitive. That's why a true leader is always reading. Write this down. A leader is a reader. You know, a leader always want to know something new. They never tried it before. Let's try it. They're very curious. But they are also flexible. Flexible means that a leader is not afraid of doing things a different way. Or they actually have an adaptable spirit. They may not even adopt things, but they'll adapt to things. Leaders are flexible. That is why there are very few leaders in the world. Because most people I meet are very straitjacket people. You know, this is the way it's always been done. This is the way we're going to do it. Well, you know, leaders don't think that way. Leaders are very curious. They like to test the envelope and push the envelope, we call it. They like to go beyond the safety zone. They're always trying to see how far they can go to make something better. They're very curious. Are you that way? Think about it. And then flexibility. Flexibility has to do with elasticity in your emotions, in your mentality, in your social acceptability. How broad can you go when things change? Leaders manage change very successfully because they're very flexible. If something doesn't work, a leader doesn't panic. A leader just simply says, well, let's find another way. You know, God is the greatest example of this characteristics. God's purposes are permanent, but his plans are flexible. Write that down. God's purposes are permanent. Your purpose is your intent. A leader never changes her intent. A leader never changes his intent. Why? Because a leader has the intent as a destination. It's his destiny or her destiny. But the plan to get there may change. God did that with the fall of man. Remember? When man fell, God didn't panic. God just came up with another plan. It was called the redemption plan. God started off with what? A creation plan. He created the thing and he says, okay, here's our destination, dominion over the whole world. Well, the project fell apart. The program was destroyed. God didn't panic. Why? He's a leader. He's flexible. He's adaptable. So God says, okay, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to use all the mess and create a new program called redemption. So he turns sin into a redeeming element. He created out of this fallen man a new creature. What's a new creature? A saved person. There never was a saved person before Adam fell. So God used the corrupt product to create a new product called a redeemed, saved person. That's why you are called a new creature in Christ. Adam was new before he fell, but then God made something new. He never had a saved creature before. Are you all with me? That's the way you're supposed to be as a leader. Things change. I mean, you go to one bank and the bank doesn't give you any money. You don't throw your plan away. You don't throw the purpose away. There are 20 different ways to succeed in life. And you only been trying one. Creativity. You want to see Jesus go to work? One blind man came to Jesus. Jesus says, okay, tell you what. For you, I'm going to touch your eyes and heal you. So he touched him. Next one came. He says, you, different plan. I'm going to use some mud with some spit. I'm going to fix you. Completely flexible. Can't figure out what he's going to do next. Yeah. He says, okay, I'll meet you all to the other side. And then he goes walking on the water. I mean, they're trying to figure out he can catch another boat. You see, you got him all figured out. No, he can catch another boat. He got your mind blown. You need to be that way. Let me give you an example, too, about being flexible. Now, the people in our ministry here and our organization, I think they figured this out with me by now. I am not afraid to change what ain't working. You know, we were trying to have a successful Sunday evening service because, you know, some people work in the day and they can't come to meetings in the morning, so we want to have a service for them. Plus, my desire is to help our people get as much knowledge as possible and train them. And of course, the Bible says that the more we fellowship together and don't neglect the time of ourselves together, it's better for the development. So Sunday evenings, we used to try to have services on Sunday evenings, and it's tough for people. You know, you go to work. I mean, you go home late from morning services sometime, you know, 1:30, 2 o'clock. And you don't have much time for your family and so forth. And I'm aware of that because I need time with my family too. So we came up with a different idea altogether. Because, you know, the services on Sunday evenings, you know, the right lights are running, air conditioning running, but, you know, the attendance is not as successful as I would like. And so, you know, you begin to become actually a deficit, which is bad leadership. So I tried five or six different approaches. The last one we did this year was very successful. And that is, I decided we ain't having no more Sunday evening services. So I introduced a brand new idea called an institute. And I chose specific subjects that would be of interest to the people, and things that they could learn. And then it was only held like, you know, 3 classes or 4 classes, and then they were off for the next 2 months. Well, I mean, we had the best attendance we ever had the all year. But it was completely new. It was not called a church service. There was no long worship. It was an institute. And people came. We gave handouts in every session. You know, it was intensive teaching. And people came. And people gave offerings to take care of the cost of the running the building. And people were blessed. And I mean, the place was filled. And so you think, well, you know, maybe your Sunday service is just a burden to you as a pastor. But don't be afraid. Don't fall out of the system. Don't be trapped by tradition. Maybe the folks that don't want to come to no church service on Sunday evening. So you got to come with something more creative. Be flexible. Now, we run into a problem. And the problem is a lot of the other churches wait for our conferences and institutes. So when we introduced the institute idea, a bunch of people from other churches showed up on Sunday evenings in our place. You know? And then all of a sudden membership started growing. So, you know, we don't want to steal members, but people came because it wasn't a church service. They were having a church service in their church. They wanted to come to get some teaching. So our members came, and then all these other people from other churches came. And it became a very successful program. And it still is, even to this day. So leaders are willing to be flexible. They're curious. They try new things. If it ain't working, throw it away. Next, a leader tests assumptions constantly. And this is related to what I'm just talking about. A leader tests assumptions constantly. A leader is always checking to see if what he or she expected is happening. Don't assume as a leader that it's working. Check it. And if it ain't working, then you got to change your strategy. Next, a leader does not over-control. A leader does not over-control. What we mean by that is a leader actually gives people the freedom to pursue the assignment he or she gave them. Here's the way I would put that again. A leader does not manage people. A leader manages resources. A true leader develops people. So you could put it this way. You develop people, you manage resources. Most leaders get in trouble, so-called leaders get in trouble because they try to manage people. Do you know that you cannot be managed? Don't you hate that word? I mean, you managing me? What are you talking about? Controlling my time, controlling my creativity, you controlling my brain, my intellect, you controlling how far I can dream about this situation. That's witchcraft. We call it management, but it's sophisticated witchcraft. A leader develops people. That's why they give them room to use their imagination and room to solve problems themselves and give them room to make mistakes and give them room to make mistakes easily so they can feel comfortable making mistakes. You see, if you're going to be successful with people, you've got to give them permission to make mistakes. Nothing can kill creativity faster than perfectionism. A true leader makes it easy for you to make a mistake without being intimidated, because you know that the mistake is not going to destroy the relationship. That's why Jesus was such a successful leader. The disciples made mistakes all through those 3.5 years. I mean, they kept on fumbling and blundering, and he just sit and just calmly say, you know, let me tell you a story. And then he'd tell them a story to try and get rid of the mistake, you know. And they kept falling into traps and doing things that are dumb. But he just kept on saying, I'll tell you another parable. They just kind of made it easy. So the guys were not afraid to try new things. Most of you work in companies that are full of fear. So that's why you only do what you're told, and then you wait for the other assignment. Because you're not being led, you're being managed. You manage a copier. You don't manage people. You manage paper and paper clips, but you don't manage people. You manage the budget, but you don't manage people. You develop people, because people are dynamic. People are leaders. This is how leaders think. A true leader develops people. Next, a true leader gives workers leeway to act. This is connected to what I just talked about. A true leader gives the workers or the followers room, leeway to act. You know, I could always tell a true leader. A true leader gets angry when you keep coming to her asking how. That's a true leader. A true leader gets angry when you keep coming to him asking him, what am I supposed to do next? How am I supposed to do this? That makes a leader mad. Because a true leader wants you to act, even if you make a mistake. As a matter of fact, leaders get a joy out of helping you to correct your mistake. That's where that joy is. They give you room. Some of you need to do that with your children. You try to manage your children. That's why they're turning out so terribly. You need to develop your children. Don't manage them. Give them room to make mistakes. One of the best ways to become a good parent is to keep remembering your own childhood. Some of you are still there. Next, a leader, oh, you ain't going to like this one. A leader tolerates and sometimes invite dissent. Dissent. How's that for a surprise? A leader, a true leader, tolerates and sometimes invite dissent. Because a leader, a true leader, I keep saying true leader, a true leader is so secure, she is not afraid of dissent. Dissent to a true leader is an important part of leadership because it's the way of feedback. The best way to find out how well you're leading is to ask those who you're leading. Jesus did this, didn't he? He was sharp, man. He was with these guys for 2.5 years, going on for the last year, and he turns around and he says, what do you say I am? What do you think about me? And man, he was so excited that they finally got the message. He was the Christ. He said, man, you guys heard from God. And then he says, who do others say I am? And they were all wrong, weren't they? Yeah. Some of you are afraid when people start complaining in your organization, in your church, in your business, when they start murmuring or whatever. Listen, dissent is one of the greatest blessings to a leader because it helps you to check your loyalty and commitment to your vision and to the people. We were talking to a couple of people, I guess yesterday, and they were having a little challenge in their organization where the leader was becoming out of touch with the council. And that usually happens when you have this problem of dissent. You know, people start complaining and the leader won't listen because he's afraid, insecure, so he goes and hides. If you haven't seen your pastor for a long time, something's going on in the organization. If you don't talk to your boss or to your pastor, if you're an assistant pastor and your pastor avoids you, there's a problem. There's dissent going on. Don't deny the dissent mechanism. Don't say it doesn't exist. Don't ignore the concerns, I want to use the word complaint, of those who you appointed. I'm going to say it again. You better write that down. Don't ignore the concerns or the complaints of those you appointed. If you appointed someone, it means that you trust their judgment. And if they start to complain and begin to show signs of dissent, don't ignore them. Listen to them. Because they usually represent an undercurrent. But a leader is not afraid of it. Now, a guy or girl who is not a true leader, they're afraid of dissent, so what do? They then overbear, they over-control. They shift into control. See? And so we have this problem of people literally being oppressed now because the leader doesn't want to hear anything about it. I like Moses. He's a great guy, isn't he? Moses had an experience with dissent. He came through his own sister and his brother, Aaron. What did Moses do? Very nice guy. Moses listened to them, And then Moses answered them. Moses says, I didn't ask for this job. So if you got a problem, tell you what, let's go visit God. Let's go talk to the boss. That was a bad idea for Miriam. Yeah. But Moses was never angry at them, was he? Matter of fact, he said, Lord, don't hurt them, hurt me instead. What kind of security does man have? Pure security. I mean, the guy was secure. Even to the point where he was willing to protect the dissenters. Are you that kind of leader? What a quality of leadership. Next, and coming down to the end here, leaders believe they can affect the world for better. I call this the destiny attitude. A true leader has a belief that she can affect the world for the better. That he can affect the world for the better. I have found out something about leaders. Leaders think global. They think generational. That's a little bit more important word there. Leaders do not believe that what they're doing is just for them. They believe that they have a part to play in history. And I want you to capture that in this seminar. When you leave here, I want you to understand that you are important. When you read the Bible, you'll be amazed of the simple people who changed the world. I was thinking, for example, things like, you remember Jesus sent the disciples to the town one time, and he says, when you go to that town, you will meet a woman with a jug on her head going for water. Talk to her and tell her to show you the place where I will have the Passover with you. Now, this is a real deep thing, This woman knows nothing about history. She knows nothing about what's going on, and yet she has an appointment with destiny. She had to get up that morning and go for water. Now, in those days, only women went to the well. Okay? Women went for water. That was the women's job in the day of Jesus. Even as far back as Abraham. Women are the ones that went for the water. That's why when the man went for a wife for his master, who's that? Isaac. There was a damsel at the well. Why? They're the ones that will go for water. So it's a very cultural thing. So Christ knew it had to be a woman going for this water. Now this woman had to get up that morning, put a jug on her head, and walk at the right time of the day to rendezvous with the disciples, because she had an assignment in life. Her assignment was to provide the place for Christ to institute a supper we are still taking part in today. Can you be that important just as a woman with a water jug? Sense of destiny. How about the guy who woke up the morning and took his mule, his donkeys, to town? He took the coat. He had to take the coat and tie it to a specific post. Why? Because somewhere in the book of Isaiah it was prophesied that he'd come riding on a coat. So this guy, a thousand years later, he had to be ready on time. I wonder what you're supposed to do that you think is so simple that's going to change history. I was born not too far from this building, in the poor side of this island. three-bedroom house with 11 children. So you know where I slept, because I had 7 sisters. So, you know, women always get the preference. And who would have thought that out of that wooden floor on 4 blocks with rats and roaches was a young man like me? I wonder who you really are. We're so quick to think we are not important to history. A leader has a sense of contribution to his generation. So whatever you do, whatever you are born to do is important to all of us. Tell your neighbor you need me. And tell him you'll see. Next, a true leader sees opportunity in challenge. A true leader sees opportunity in challenge. The spirit of a leader is a strange spirit. A leader is never taken aback by disappointment. I can tell you the secret. A true leader strives on difficulty. That gets his adrenaline flowing. That's where she gets her passion. Life is boring when there's nothing to fight against. Y'all can't handle that kind of stuff. Some of y'all are praying to come out of problems. I can't wait for the next one. Why? That's the only way I could get my potential worked out. I need something to put a demand on me. I did a teaching. I want you all to maybe pick up some of these tapes around here. I did a teaching on the kingdom ways to solve problems. It's a very powerful set of teaching in the Kingdom series. You may check those in the tape or the bookstore. And this series really changed not only my life, but changed the church, the people who got that series. And I taught in that lesson, as I studied, how Jesus thought. I mean, his thinking was amazing. In every problem is a solution. That's the way he thought. The solution is in the problem. Write that down. One day that's going to make sense to you. Whatever the problem is, it has the solution in it. I didn't know that until I studied kingdom thinking. Jesus had these people who were hungry, remember? Over 5,000 people hungry. And Christ says to the disciples, okay, feed them. What do you mean feed them? Feed them. And they said, Master, to feed them, we have to go to town. That's 3 days away. By the time we come back, they'll be starving. By the way, that statement means that they had money. You all missed that. See, you all thought that Jesus was a poor guy with a bunch of poor guys. The guys had money. They said, Master, we go to town and buy enough for these people. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of money. They didn't say we couldn't buy it. He said, just it'll take too long. So Christ says, what do you have? And I believe that's the most powerful business question in history. Please get that tape. It'll bless you. We always talk about what we don't have. He says, what do you have? The solution is right here in this spot. Let's see what you have. And they said, all we have is, and that's usually your answer. And his answer was, that's enough. Give him a hand. That's powerful, isn't it? You should clap right there. I mean, who would have thought that 2 loaves, 3 loaves, and 2 fishes is enough? He says it is. It's right here. The problem is solved right here. And he goes inside the loaves, and he splits the atom, and it begins to multiply. He goes into the fish, and he splits the atom, and the fish multiply. That's really what he did. And everybody ate. A leader thinks that way. A leader says, okay, all right, let's see. Profits are down. The budget was not met at that last function. The creditors are calling for their monies. Okay, let's panic and run. That's not a leader. He says, okay, let's sit down now. Let's see what we got. You know, most of your bills could be paid by things you could sell in your house that you ain't used for 20 years. You never thought about it, eh? People who live in the rich areas in your country, the rich areas, watch them now. You think they don't have any needs. They got needs. So have you ever seen a rummage sale in the poor area? No. I'm giving you some wisdom. The rich man takes the stuff he don't use anymore, puts it in the garage, put a sign up, and the poor people go buy them, and he gets the money and buys what he wants. Why? Because the answer is in his house. So he still leads you around in your poverty. You'll get it after I'm gone. My time is gone. I got 2 minutes. I haven't talked about vision yet. Okay. Next. A leader makes instinctive decisions based on experience and information. A true leader makes instinctive decisions based on experience and information. I want to recommend to you, my friends, that you really consider this one. A leader lives on instincts. When decisions are demanded instantly. Let me tell you what is one of the most difficult things, and this is my experience talking, is people delay decisions. A poor leader keeps looking for more information and more information, calling another meeting and calling another meeting and waiting for this. That's not a true leader. Especially when there's a time constraint. Some of you work in companies where you are frustrated because things you've been trying to do for the last 6 months still ain't done because the person who's supposed to make the decisions to get it done is still holding a meeting to discuss it 6 months later. Anybody here? I'm talking to some of you pastors especially. Make decisions for the people, man. No. What frustrates a true leader is sometimes a true leader gives you an assignment and they go away. And then they come back and they ask you, is it finished? And you go, I was waiting for you to come back to tell. Now listen, that's it. You know, but for the grace of God, you are fired. I believe one of the curses of being a pastor is that you have to fire your members, so sometimes you get a little mercy. See, and the members always say, you're a Christian. You're my pastor, you got to have mercy. Well, I'm getting better at it. I'm getting better. See, Jesus taught me a lesson. Jesus said, our owner had a manager. Luke 16, right? And he gave him an assignment. And when he came back to see how he did, the manager started talking about why he didn't do what he was supposed to do. I like what she said. He says, and the owner fired him. Another place Jesus talks about management, and he says, agree with your adversary quickly while you are in the way with him. You got a relationship with him. He says, if not, you will be tried, condemned, put in jail, and then he says you will stay there until you pay everything. Now, that's tough. In other words, you have to carry the penalty if you don't act properly. So we're talking about, give me one more chance, Pastor. You know, the Lord say mercy is better than judgment. Yeah, but they say mercy and judgment are the same coin. So I had mercy for 3 years. Judgment is now at home. You may now leave, go find yourself another job. Some of the worst people to work for you are Christians. Amen. And finally, leaders take time to teach people and to train people. Leaders take time to teach people and to train people. I want to add a little appendix here. Leaders take time to teach people their point of view. And that's important. A leader does not just assume that the people or the workers know what he or she wants. You need to take time to tell people. Now me, I'm a pretty prolific writer, you know. I like to write things down. So most of the people in our staff and those who work for me, you know, I write, like, I take the whole vision and put it on paper, and I give it to them, details. Then I say, okay, any questions? And usually because I'm a pretty prolific writer, there's very few questions because it's so detailed. But you've got to take that time. And believe me, to write that document may take me weeks trying to articulate the detail of my spirit on paper so that they don't have to guess too much. Most of you who are youth pastors or, you know, choir leaders or something, you ain't know what the pastor wants. All you know is when he complains. Right? We need people who teach people their point of view. That's what a leader does. Jesus, boy, was he an expert at this? Constantly taking his disciples aside, teaching them. I mean, he didn't leave no room for guessing. He sat them down, he taught them details about the kingdom and what he wanted to accomplish and how he wanted it done and who he wanted to send. And I mean, everything was clear. And then he would literally open up for questions, didn't he? And every time they asked a question, you know, listen, if you don't want a message, don't ask Jesus a question. Read the Bible. Most of the New Testament 4 Gospels are answers to questions. Study the 4 Gospels. Most of them are answers to questions. One time they asked him one question. The guy answered in 3 chapters. They said, "Oh, Master, when will the end come?" He said, "I was waiting for this one." And the guy preached on the end times and preached on the fall of Israel, you know, of the temple, and preached on, you know, the sheep and the goats, and preached on the great white throne. I mean, the guy went in big, long discourse. When he finished, he said, "Now you got it?" They still didn't get it. They were still looking for him to come in the first chapter of Acts. And he said, "You still don't get it, did you?" So he sits down and he teaches them again in the book of Acts. Look, the kingdom of God doesn't come by observation. And only the Lord, the Father, knows the time of the establishment of my throne on earth. So, you know, he begins to teach. In other words, a true leader does not get angry when the followers want more information. Some people are afraid to go in and see the boss. And you know what's bad about that? Because then they start assuming things and mess up the company. And sometimes that's the boss's fault, because the boss doesn't have the attitude of a true leader, which says, "Hey, my door's open. You can come talk to me anytime. Here's the assignment. If you have any problems, check with me." That's a true leader. It's teaching the followers. Okay, I want to close because of time, and I'm excited about this next session coming up. But I want to close with just 2 items, and then tomorrow we are going to pick up on 12 management skills every leader should have. These 12 management skills, I hope everybody is present. Because what I'm going to teach is to show you how to stay out of failure. Tomorrow morning, how to stay out of failure. 12 management skills. Now, I must be honest, most of the people I've met know very little about management, especially Christians, especially those who work in church ministry. Pastors are very, very bad at management. So we're going to talk about management tomorrow. Practical management. There's going to be some important things I'm going to list. But let me just close this session with these 2 words. Mission and vision. And then we'll pick up with the next session. Write those two words down, please. There's a difference between a mission and a vision. Now, someone asked a question some time ago, and I heard it again yesterday. Someone asked a question, what is more important, the vision or the visionary? I'm now going to give you the answer. Write it down. The vision is more important than the visionary. The vision is more important than the visionary. Vision creates the visionary. Vision precedes the visionary. Vision comes before the leader. Vision creates the leader. That is why you cannot teach leadership in a university. You cannot gain leadership by taking courses on management and leadership skills and administration skills and organizational techniques. That doesn't create a leader. A leader is created by vision. Write that down, please. Vision is more important than the leader. Visionaries are dispensable. Vision is not. Here's the Bible take on this. The Bible says, without a leader, gotcha. See, but that's the way you think. The Bible says without a what? A vision, the people perish. The people don't really need you to be successful. They need a vision. Leaders come and go, but the vision is constant. That is why you can die and still be successful after your death if you did a good job transferring the vision. Write this down. Vision is bigger than the visionary. That's why Jesus leaving earth was easy for Jesus. His vision was bigger than his death and resurrection. So he left. And the vision is still going on 2,000 years later and growing. You want to hear his prayer? Interesting prayer. Jesus spent 90% of his time with the disciples. 90%. I did an analysis of the four Gospels, and I concluded that 90% of four Gospels is his time with the disciples. 10% is with the public. Come on, fellas, talk to me. You got a problem right away. How much time do you spend with your leaders in your church? Every Sunday morning for 1.5 hours? That's it? How much time do you spend with your employees in your business? You don't spend no time with them. You go to work. That's what you tell them. You go for lunch and come back on time and then go at 5. In other words, you don't spend no time with the people. We missed it. Every time he called them aside, he had one lesson for 3.5 years. The kingdom of God is like. That's my vision. And in John chapter 17, he's about to die. Right? I mean, the guy got just a few days. He knows it. So he calls them together and he begins to pray. You want to hear his prayer? Interesting prayer. He says, Father, I pray not for the world. Now, wait a minute. I thought the world was the market. He said, but I'm not praying about the market. He knew he was successful in transferring this thing. He said, I pray only for these you've given me. How many? 12. The guy came to win the world, but only selected 12 people. How you doing? Christ did not want a big church. He wanted a team of leaders. One of our problems in the 21st century is we got big, fat, lazy churches. Big, mega babysitting incubators. Do you know how large my church is? I have 15 members. One of them is my wife. What makes this ministry run successfully? We have a meeting that is held every Tuesday night and has been held every Tuesday night, every week, every Tuesday night for the last 19 years. That's my church. So I could die now and this vision will still be fulfilled. I travel and the ministry grows in my absence. There's no competition, no threat, no nothing, no division. Never had a division in this church. 19 years. Same board members from day one. I mean, what's the secret here? Transferring of vision. Don't force the people to join you. Transfer vision. I think you all know this, right? The prefix "die," it means two. And vision means single sight. Interesting word. So when you put "die" in the front of vision, you have what? And that's what causes division. Two visions in the same house. And whenever there's two visions in the same house, it's the leader's fault. It's always the leader's fault. Jesus was so sure of his success. Here's the way he prayed. He says, Father, I pray not only for these, but for those who will believe this vision through them. Why? They got it. I could leave now. I only need 11. I lost one. Usually lose a member. Ratio is what? 1%. But he says, I'm so successful, I could die and the vision won't die. That's the point. The vision is bigger than the visionary. What is vision? Vision is a glimpse of purpose. Secondly, vision is a preferred future. A preferred future. Thirdly, vision is a description of your destiny. You actually can describe it. Vision is different from mission. Let me just give you this quickly. Mission is general. Let me give you the characteristics here. A mission statement is a broad, general statement about who you wish to reach and what you hope to accomplish. That's your mission. Who you wish to reach and what you hope to accomplish. That's your mission. Your vision is different. Vision is specific, detailed, customized, distinctive, and unique. I want to repeat those words. Very important. Vision is specific, detailed, customized, distinctive, and unique. It allows the leader to say no to good opportunities. It provides direction. It empowers people for service and it facilitates productivity. Vision is really the motor of an organization. Now, mission is different. Mission is general. The best description I can have of mission is the Great Commission. If I ask you as a company, what is your vision? You say, oh, to sell food. You ain't going to be in business too long. If I ask you as a pastor, what is your vision? You say, oh, to save the lost at any cost. You're going to lose. You ain't going to make it. If I ask you as a pastor, what is your vision? And you said, my vision is to win the city for Jesus. You ain't going to make it. Look at a vision. Look at a vision. Look at the definition. Look at it. Can you save the lost at any cost with that particular list of words? So what is your vision? Well, my vision is to win the people of this nation to Jesus. You're gonna lose. You're gonna fail. What you gave me as an answer was not a vision. You gave me a mission. Mission is what? General. The best description of it is let me ask a question. How many churches in the world are supposed to save the lost at any cost? All of them. How many churches are supposed to win their city for Jesus? All of them. What's your vision? To preach the gospel to the lost. How many churches are supposed to preach the gospel to the lost? All of them. You ain't unique. You're not distinctive. You're not specific. So that's why you got to do some researching. Find out what is my role in the mission. The best description I always give is the fast food places. You know, you have Kentucky Fried Chicken, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, Denny's, what else you got? And Burger King, all right? Have you noticed they always, whenever they build one of those, they look for the other? You ever wonder why? Now, usually, if someone built a church next to your church, that's enemies. Hello? I mean, if a guy comes in your neighborhood build a church, what's your first thought? You're encroaching on my territory. What are you talking about? Your territory? Someone builds a house right down the road from you, build a restaurant right down from you, or build a shoe store right next to you, or build a church next to you. There's big problem, jealousy and hatred and deceit and bitterness, and you undermine them and you start talking about them and advertise against them. Now, look at Burger King and Pizza Hut and McDonald's and Denny's. They don't avoid each other, they find each other. And they build right next to each other, right across the street, right beside. And all of them are billionaires. Now you're trying to figure out, how come they're making it? Because the children of this world are wiser than the children of light. What makes them so successful? They figured out what the Word of God talks about concerning vision. Okay. Now, you got Burger King, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, Denny's. Ask them a question. What is your mission? All of them have the same answer. To feed people. We are in the food business. Is that right? We feed hungry stomachs. That's it. Everyone has the same mission in their life. To feed people. Now you ask them, what is your vision? Now we got distinctions. We got problems here. Right. And that is, they begin to say, well, Burger King says, well, we are the Whopper people. That's our vision. We have this Burger King we call the Whopper. We're the only ones that can whop you. You want a Whopper, you got to come to us. Kentucky Fried Chicken says, hey, we ain't into Whoppers, we into what? Chicken. You want chicken? You got to find us. Pizza Hut says, hey, we ain't into chicken nor Whoppers, we into what? Pizza. You want pizza? You got to come to us. Denny's say, well, we ain't into burgers and pizza, we into what? Grand Slam. You want breakfast? We'll breakfast you at midnight.
Mercy. Mercy. Specific.
That's their vision. McDonald's says, well, we ain't into Whopper, but we got a Mac.
Yeah, Big Mac.
We'll Big Mac you into submission. And so they're all successful. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. If your church is not being successful or your business is not successful, check if you have a specific vision. If you're going to sell shoes, don't just sell shoes. You better decide what's going to be your vision for shoes? You know, Nike does not sell Sunday shoes. They're smart. Palmer cans sell Sunday shoes. They don't focus on athletic shoes. What's your church focusing on? What's your business about? If you're going to sell food, don't just sell food. You got to be known for something. In this ministry, our vision is very clear. You see that statement there? Transforming followers into leaders. That's what we're known for in the whole country. So you can't compete with a vision. There's no competition. So you think, you'll never see McDonald's on TV saying, do not visit Burger King. They are terrible burgers. Kentucky never attacks Pizza Hut. You ever seen it on the radio or television?